So humoral regulation is important, and this exists as a really complicated area of study. We're only going to sample two things, and again, that's already enough in terms of material. Okay, so we're going to look at the definition of humoral regulation. Humor means water, okay, and in Latin. So H-U-M-O-U-R means haha funny, okay, in Latin. H-U-M-O-R means water. So we're referring to regulation of hormone action based on blood content. And you've already seen humoral regulation in the lab. Remember potassium, if potassium becomes high, that causes the release of aldosterone, right? So you've already seen that. So that's another humoral regulation. So we've already seen that. So again, three relevant humoral regulation modes. One, serum potassium and serum sodium regulation, okay? So they regulate aldosterone. We've already seen this in lab, so that's done. We're going to now look at serum calcium, okay, and how that will regulate different hormones. And of course, we're also going to look at serum glucose. Okay, so when we are looking into calcium, I want to again remind you that any feedback loop consists of a sensor, consists of afferent pathways, efferent pathways, integration centers, of course, and then effectors. Effectors are the final organs that bring about changes, correct? Mm-hmm. So I want you to go back and review that definition because we're going to be using that here. It's very important that you understand what component is what. So we're going to look at calcium regulation. You already know why calcium is important. If calcium is not present in the right levels, your neurons don't work, your heart doesn't work, most of your muscles will not work. Basically, it's a very horrible bye-bye time. Are we clear? Yes. You never ever want to go into hypocalcemia, right? Not at all a good idea. The body sounds its 911 alarm when it senses calcium going down. You never want that, okay? So calcium is regulated anywhere between 9 to 11 milligram per deciliter. So you can see it is an extremely tight window. It's a very tight window. If you go less than 9, you're in trouble. If you go over 11, you're in trouble. Are we clear? Mm-hmm. And bone matrix, you should know this from anatomy, bone matrix, which is calcified, is the major reserve, okay, for calcium. So bone matrix holds most of the calcium, okay? So bone matrix is based on calcium phosphate, okay? And calcium phosphate is what we call a basic salt, okay? This is important. And you should know this from chemistry. A basic salt will dissolve when you add acid, and acidic salt will dissolve when you add a base. Acids and bases react with each other. Everybody knows that? Yeah. Sternocleidomastoid? Yes. Okay. So, those of you who haven't taken anatomy, that's not a curse word. Might as well be. It's a muscle. It's your neck muscle. Okay. So respond is what I'm begging you to do. Okay? Because I'm feeling sleepy too. All right. So calcium phosphate is a basic salt. Okay? Mm-hmm. This is really important. So calcium, writing with the time to retire. Calcium phosphate as a solid, right? That's not the formula, calcium phosphate. I'm just being lazy, okay? So calcium phosphate can break down into calcium and phosphate ions, correct? Mm-hmm. Yes. So this is insoluble, and this is the soluble version. Okay, again, all this is chemistry. Should have covered all this in chemistry. So it's important to understand that when you go in this direction, when you go from insoluble to soluble, this is called bone resorption. And when you go in this direction, okay, this would be bone deposition. you're depositing calcium into the bone, whereas bone resorption, you're removing calcium from bone. Are we clear?
Yes.
Okay, so just as a code, this will lead to less bone density, correct?
Yes.
And this will lead to greater bone density. Very common sense. Is everyone okay with this?
Yes.
All right, so let's look at what stimuli we're going to need to do each of these processes, right? If you want to withdraw money, you have expenses. You have to spend, I mean, money is low in your wallet. So you go to the ATM and withdraw money, correct?
Yes.
So the blue process will happen. What did I just do? Okay. The blue process will tend to happen. Oh, come on. I kind of goofed. I don't know what's going on here. No. It's wonderful when I have no clue what I've done. Okay, here we go. So, yeah, I don't know what that was. Okay, so what will be the stimuli in each of these processes, right? The reason why you want to withdraw calcium from bone is because your blood calcium is what? Low. Thank you. So blood calcium is less than 9 milligrams, correct?
Mm-hmm.
This is your stimulus, okay? So the green color is your stimulus. And why would you want to deposit in the bone? When you have too much cash on your hands, right? Hello?
Yes.
So blood calcium is greater than 11 milligrams. Okay? So once you understand the idea here, okay, now we can go into a lot of the particulars. Okay? So this is the reason we do not do skeletal system as a chapter, because most of skeletal system is anatomy anyway. So it's irrelevant to this class. And this part falls under endocrine because you're dealing with hormones. Okay, so in terms of calcium homeostasis, I want to start off, and again, I'm going to keep my color coding. So when you have excess serum calcium, okay, so what will be the response? So before we do that, I do want to talk about some of the components. Okay, so let's leave that there. Okay, so let me talk about some of the components of this pathway. Okay, so what are the components of this pathway? So first off, bone has cells that mediate this process. Okay, now I don't really care if you know the properties of these cells. We're not covering that. That's all anatomy. Okay, so that mediate both processes. Okay, so these cells are divided into three. Okay, so bone cells, we have what we call bone stem cells. Okay, these are completely undifferentiated and they're dividing all the time, just like any other stem cell, right? A stem cell is a multipotent cell, right? It has the ability to turn into anything, right? So the stem cells, these are also called osteoprogenitor cells, but I don't really care if you know that name. So stem cells, okay, are then converted in their life cycle to osteoblasts. Now, whenever you see the word blast, again, this means stem cells. Osteoblasts are partial stem cells. Stem cells are total stem cells. Okay, osteoblasts are partial stem cells. They're able to divide and they're able to secrete. Okay, so what osteoblasts do is they do several things. One, they secrete the soft matrix, which is basically called an osteoid. Okay, that's basically the protein part of bone. Protein part of bone matrix. They will secrete that. Okay. Second, They differentiate to osteocytes. Okay, so osteoblasts will become osteocytes, and osteocytes die. Okay, so osteocytes are terminally differentiated. Okay, and third, very, very important function, osteoblasts secrete. Okay, and again, I don't need you to know the specific factors, but it's called rank L and osteoprotegerin. You don't need to know these. Just know that they secrete factors that activate osteoclasts. Osteoclasts are always in the off switch. They need to be turned on. So tell me, are they constitutive or are they regulated?
Regulated.
Okay, good. So osteoclasts are a different population. So I'm going to list them here. Osteoclasts are basically rich in lysosomes. And lysosomes are acid and enzyme containing organelles. You should know this from 102 or some biology. Okay, so they're rich in lysosomes. Okay, they secrete acid. They have a ruffled border, meaning their plasma membrane is ruffled like a sponge. Everybody knows dishwashing sponge?
Yes.
It's ruffled like a sponge. Okay, that increases surface area a lot. Plus, it helps with scrubbing. Okay? Bone matrix is not easy to dissolve. That should be obvious to everyone, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So you need to scrub the hell out of that thing to get it to dissolve. And you know why it secretes acid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because bone matrix is what type of salt?
Base.
It's a base. You need acid to scrub, right? You put the acid and you scrub it, it's going to release the calcium out. Are we clear?
Yes.
Okay. So, and osteoclasts are formed by fusion of 50 to 100 monocytes. And monocytes are immune cells. They are immune cells. They're phagocytes. Okay. So 40 to 50 or 50 to 100 of them will combine to form one giant osteoclast. Are we clear? And,
yes.
And monocytes are already huge. Okay, so these are really big cells. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So let you copy. Slow down time. I'm gonna burst one day. We're going to be using all of this information. Okay. One thing I need you to understand, that one key thing I need you to understand here is this idea. Okay. This is highly dependent on the number of osteoblasts. Okay, so if osteoblast number is greater than a particular threshold, okay, then they'll activate the osteoclast. Are we clear? Mm-hmm. Because you need a certain number of factors to activate the osteoclasts are like a bomb, right? You want to make sure that you want to set this off. Because once you scrub bone, it's going to take a lot of effort to put all this back. Mm-hmm. Am I making sense?
Yes.
This entire process, okay, is called bone remodeling. It's a very, very important function because calcium is extremely important to the body.
To be clear, bone remodeling is both the process of taking calcium from the bone and putting it back.
Thank you. Let me and this is happening 24/7, 365. It's a constitutive process. It's always happening, okay? What you do is you increase one more and decrease one less. Are we clear?
Yes.
So it's always playing around with both of these, right? Just like how in the autonomic nervous system, it's never enough to just turn on the sympathetic. You should also turn off the parasympathetic. Are we clear?
Yes.
You need to do both, and vice versa. If you want to turn on the parasympathetic, you need to turn off the sympathetic. You need to be doing both. And that's how all physiological mechanisms work. Don't think one-sided. You'll get most of the questions wrong. Okay? You have to do both. Clear?
Mm-hmm.
So, how is excess serum calcium handled? So, I'm sure you saw this in the lab, right? Today or on Tuesday. So, what happened? So, with excess serum calcium, this is detected by parafollicular cells. Now in humans, this is highly debated. People think that this doesn't happen in humans. Okay? If it truly doesn't, then this is yet another win for evolution, because most mammals have this phenomenon. And like idiots, we have the hormones to do it. Right? Because I just read papers saying that this has no effect in humans. People tried using this mechanism in osteoporosis patients and it had no effect, right? Concluding us to believe that we lost the ability to regulate calcium. Well, how dumb can we be? Calcium is the most important thing in the body, and we already lost half the pathway. And this is what happens with evolution. It's not programmed. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Which means we should all become extinct and give way to the next human species. Correct?
Yes.
Everyone's having pleasant thoughts. Extinction. Oh,
Yeah.
way better than grading. Okay, so detected by parafollicular cells. Where do you find parafollicular cells? Thyroid, thank you. Somebody was awake. Somebody is awake. So, of thyroid, okay, they detect these levels and they secrete calcitonin. Now, this happens in humans. Our blood has calcitonin. Okay, in fact, many of our cancers secrete calcitonin. So, it's not like we don't have calcitonin. We have the gene, we have the protein, but it doesn't work. So, what comes after this has been proven in animals. Okay, many animals, rabbits, rats, mice, many animals, even elephants, but not in humans. Are we clear?
Yes.
Yes.
This pathway is not very clear as to how we do this. So when you eat a tub of ice cream, we have no idea what happens to all that calcium. It does get deposited. It gets deposited, trust me, it gets deposited, right? The ice cream you eat gets deposited, all the calcium gets in there. But we don't know how. Make sense? People don't think it's calcitonin. So if you read a lot of textbooks, they'll actually say that. They'll say in humans, this pathway is not proven. Okay, and that part is correct. It is not proven. Are we clear? But I'm still going to go over this because I have a stinking hunch that this does happen, but it happens maybe through another hormone that we don't know about. But clearly the start and the finish are there, right? So I'll give you the disclaimer that this happens in animals. I want you to assume this happens in humans, okay? For the purposes of the exam. And now everyone's awake, right? Okay, so you secrete calcitonin into blood, and what calcitonin does, at least in other animals, is calcitonin increases the differentiation to osteocytes. So when you increase differentiation to osteocytes, what differentiates to osteocytes?
Osteoblast.
Osteoblast. So if you increase differentiation to osteocytes, what happens to osteoblast number?
Decreases.
Okay, good. So this causes a decrease in osteoblast number, which means you have less factors, right, being secreted. If you have less cells, you secrete less factors, correct?
Yes.
Common sense, right? And to secrete these factors, you need calcium, by the way, right? To secrete anything, you need calcium, remember? Okay, no you don't. So, moving on. So, less factors secrete. If you secrete less factors, what happens to osteoclasts turn on?
Less of it.
You don't turn on osteoclasts, correct? So, what have you, so decrease osteoclastogenesis. Isn't that a fun word? If I had a daughter, I would have named her this. So, osteoclastogenesis, right? That means you're activating less osteoclasts. Are we clear?
Yes.
They're always going to be around. Common sense. Why do you want osteoclasts to be always around?
Osteoclast.
What do osteoclasts do?
Deposit calcium into the.
Osteoclasts. What do osteoclasts do? Class, kill bone. Blast, build bone. My high school days. Okay? This is how you teach high schoolers. Blast, build bone. Class, kill bone. It'd be poetic. And stupid. So, but anyway, if it helps you remember, it helps you remember. It helps me remember now, unfortunately. Okay, so guys, when your calcium is running low, do you have the luxury to take monocytes from them? Shove them all together, okay? Make them into one big blob, and then turn it on?
No.
So what do? You keep a reserve. You keep a reserve always. When calcium is running low, you're going to die any second. Are we clear?
Yes.
You don't have the luxury to wait for everybody to come in and start dancing. Are we clear?
Yes.
So osteoclasts will always be there, but you keep them off. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You only turn them on when you need to. Is this making sense?
Yes.
So if osteoclasts are less, what do? So this will minimize resorption. And don't you want to? Bone calcium is high, correct?
Yes.
Why would you want to resorb? That's not helping anything, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You're going away, right? If you end up resorbing bone, that's a positive feedback mechanism. You don't want that, right? But what will the osteoblasts what will the differentiation osteocytes do? This will deposit blood calcium to bone. Will that decrease blood calcium?
Yes.
If you take calcium from blood and put it into bone, if you take cash from your wallet and deposit it into the ATM, does the money in your wallet decrease?
Yes.
Fremont Unified, will that decrease?
Decrease.
Wow, everybody answered. That's amazing. I need you to answer.
Decrease.
It will decrease. That's exactly what we're doing here. Yes?
Yes.
If I ask a question and you're not even attempting, don't come to me saying I didn't do well on the exam. Because you won't. Because you're not learning anything. You're just sitting there like a lump. That's not going to help. Okay? Participate. Even if it's a stupid question, participate. Okay? Because that will make sure you're paying attention to the next fact. Yes? I need everyone to answer, or you ain't getting no review, nothing. I'm walking out of here and taking a nap in my car. Okay. So, and you learn everything from my videos. So, is this point clear?
Yes.
Okay, so look at this pathway and tell me if that's making sense. Now, calcitonin has many other effects that I'm not going into, but this is the main effect, right? If blood calcium is high, you just drank a big jug of milk, all that calcium is going to be deposited into your bone. This is why you tell children you need to drink a lot of milk to keep your bones healthy, correct?
Yes.
In fact, mother's milk for the first 2 years helps ossify all the cartilage. Remember, we're born with cartilage, correct?
Mm-hmm.
We're all cartilage, correct? All our skeleton. So if the baby doesn't get mother's milk, what's going to happen to conversion to bone?
Doesn't happen.
It's not going to happen. Clear? That's not good news.
Yes.
Okay? So that's why mother's milk has so much calcium. This is why the mother goes through postpartum depression, because she's giving all her calcium to the parasite. When she does that, she doesn't have enough calcium for her happy hormones to be secreted. It's physiological. She's not cranky because she wants to be cranky. Okay? It's physiological. Do you understand? Very important. So it's very important for the mother to drink her milk and to have her source of calcium, even if she wants ice cream, right? That's one time that she's allowed to have it. Okay? Everybody got this?
Yes.
Okay, moving on. So what happens when we are deficient in calcium? And this one's complicated. So in a calcium deficient state, this is a 911 call, okay? Extremely emergency situation. This could lead to death almost instantly with the heart stopping, okay? So most importantly, it's for the heart because the brain does have some alternates, okay? And many times the brain's not needed, okay, to function fully. There are some compensating mechanisms. We know this from comatose patients, right? Their conscious part of the brain is not working. That's the definition of a coma, right?
Yes.
Clearly, they're living, right? So, but the heart, no. You can't live without a heart. That's not going to happen. So calcium deficiency, there's a big problem. So you want to correct this immediately. And you want this to be a sustained pathway, correct?
Yeah.
So calcitonin will have a 1-to-1 non-amplified effect because bone deposition should be slow. Do you want to deposit randomly? If you're building a road, do you want to throw the tar in there all haphazardly and quickly and go home and nap?
No.
Nap. No, right? You want to do it nice and slow. That's why they take forever, right? All those wonderful construction crews.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes? You want to do it nice and slow and nice and even, right?
Yes.
Whereas if you don't have enough calcium, right, you better get on it fast. Are we clear?
Yes.
Yes.
This is why bones become really ugly looking after a lot of bone resorption has happened. Because you're just pulling calcium like no tomorrow. Make sense?
Yes.
Because it's an urgency. You don't have the time to be perfect. Are we clear?
Yes.
So what signaling mechanism will this use? If you want a very large response, you want a very sustained response, meaning that this has to be on till you correct the levels, correct?
Yes.
What will you use? Amplified or non-amplified?
Amplified.
Amplified. You will use cyclic AMP here. Are we clear?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the mechanism. These are the steps. So by the way, all these arrows, that's a mechanism. Correct? Step-by-step explanation of an effect is called a mechanism, right?
Yes.
So here is the mechanism for calcium deficient states. So we're looking at what's happening here. So for calcium deficient states, again, this is sensed by a calcium receptor. Okay? Calcium is the only ion that I know of that has its own receptors. Usually receptors bind neurotransmitters, they bind hormones, right? Here's an ion that binds receptor. That should tell you how damn important calcium is. We have evolved a calcium receptor, and this calcium receptor is conserved all the way to insects. Okay, from insects to us, we have the exact same calcium receptors. Are we clear?
Yes.
Amazing protein, okay? So the calcium receptor normally is an inhibitory receptor, right? It shuts everything down, right? That's its job. So with the calcium receptor, normally, so think about it, under normal conditions, do you want calcium receptor, you don't want calcium receptor to be on, are we clear?
Yes.
So you keep the calcium receptor in an off state when calcium is normal. But when calcium is high, right? I'm sorry, not calcium is high. When calcium is low, right? So this is what happens. When calcium is high, it'll bind the receptor and inhibit everything. Are we clear? So the turning on of calcium receptors is an inhibitory pathway. Okay? So high calcium, okay, will shut off the calcium receptor in the parathyroid. People get confused between parafollicular and parathyroid. Be very careful. Parathyroid is a whole different organ. Parafollicular is in the thyroid gland. Thyroid and parathyroid, completely different organs. Are we clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Other than the geographical location, they have no connection to each other. Even embryonically, completely different tissues. Okay? So, calcium receptor. So, calcium receptor is always on when calcium is there. That's an obvious situation, right?
Mhm.
When calcium is low, calcium receptor is off, correct? Yes?
Yeah.
So low, wrong color code, low calcium, okay, gives a shut off of the calcium receptor. When calcium receptors shut off, okay, that leads to, and this is a long mechanism, I'm not going into it, but that leads to cyclic AMP being made. Because calcium receptor uses an inhibitory G protein. It's a G protein that shuts off the adenylate cyclase. Okay? Before, what did you see? You saw that cyclic AMP was being made, right? There's another protein, G protein, that's called an inhibitory G protein, that can shut off the adenylate cyclase. Okay, you don't need to know that for any of my exams, too detailed, okay? But just whoever's curious. So if you turn off the off switch, what are you really doing?
Turning on a system.
Turning it on. Negative of a negative is positive, right? So turn
Yes.
off the off switch, right? If you shut off the calcium receptor, parathyroid hormone is released.
Sorry, does extra CA turn off the CA receptor, or does too little?
Well, you tell me. It's a calcium receptor, right? When there's a lot of calcium, look at what it did.
You said.
When there's a lot of calcium, it binds the calcium receptor and shuts it off.
Okay.
When there's very little calcium receptor, right? When there's very little calcium, the calcium receptor is going to be on.
Oh, because you wrote shut off. Low calcium shuts off.
Oh.
Okay.
I take it back. I'm the dum-dum, right? It's turned on. Thank you. Okay. Good catch. Here we go. So low calcium turns on the calcium receptor. Thank you. And parathyroid hormone is released. Are we clear?
Yes.
Which is exactly what you should do. Parathyroid hormone does three things. Very, very important. So PTH in the body does three things, and I need you to know all three of them. So I'm going to color code this in terms of blue. So in the bone, and I'm making it dark blue because this is the most important. In the bone, PTH blocks osteoblast differentiation. So when you block osteoblast differentiation, what is that going to do? Osteoblast differentiation means osteoblast becomes osteocyte, right?
Yeah.
If you block it, what's going to happen?
You get more osteoblasts. Or they don't. You lose less.
You were correct the first time.
No.
You're going to have a lot of osteoblasts floating around. And remember what I told you, when you increase osteoblast number, what do?
You blast more bone.
No.
Build.
Osteoblasts build bone when they get converted to osteocytes. When osteoblasts remain osteoblasts, what do? They secrete factors that then do what? Remember my daughter?
Osteoclastogenesis.
Osteoclastogenesis, correct? And that leads to what? What do osteoblasts normally do?
Resorption.
And roughly about 1%, okay, of the bone matrix becomes solubilized, and that already is a lot. Next, what do we do? Come on, there. Okay, so the next thing you do, the next effector, so main effector is bone, okay? The next effector is going to be the kidney, okay? So it's going to be the kidneys, and what the kidneys do is twofold, okay? So number one, they reabsorb urinary calcium, correct? Technically it's filtrate calcium, but that's okay for now, just for you to understand. Whatever calcium was going to go into the urine, you reabsorb more of them. Are we clear?
Yes.
Okay. And another very subtle effect, which is very important, you increase phosphate excretion. This is important. When you get rid of phosphate, calcium remains soluble, correct? If you have too much phosphate, what happens? Calcium and phosphate come back together, right? You don't want that. The whole effort that you did through osteoclast is to separate the phosphate and the calcium, right? So you want to get rid of the phosphate, right? So if you are always high phosphate in your urine, you've got problems. You're probably going to become osteoporotic. Are we clear? Your urine and sweat, they give you all kinds of warnings over the years. We just never pay any attention, like we don't in class, right? We just don't pay attention to them. Okay, but the sweat and urine tells you. Okay, if your phosphates are high all the time, that means something is wrong. Get your bones checked. Get your bone density checked. So you excrete phosphate. Is this clear?
Yes.
Which will, again, maximize urinary calcium. The third thing the kidneys do is activate vitamin D. So, what do we do with the vitamin D? The third effector is your intestine, particularly your small intestine. And in the intestine, this is what you do. Vitamin D, I told you, is a steroid hormone, correct? And how do steroids work? They make what? They don't make DNA. I hope not. They make what? Transcription, but eventually?
RNA.
Remember the word that I used, the Latin word. I can't charade more than this. From scratch, de novo. Nobody studies. De novo protein synthesis, correct?
Yeah.
Imagine me scratching. De novo protein synthesis. You make new protein. What protein do you make? Do you make all proteins?
No.
Or do you make specific proteins? Specific, you're talking about hormones. So vitamin D is a steroid and it makes de novo calbindin. Can this get any easier? Calbindin, what do you think this does?
Binds to calcium.
Binds calcium. And that's exactly what it does. It binds dietary calcium. It's a calcium magnet. It's a calcium transporter. So it grabs onto the calcium you just ate, okay? And prevents the calcium from going into your feces. Are we clear? Grabs onto as much calcium as we can. So calbindin helps absorb dietary calcium into blood. Now, what do all three things do, therefore?
Get calcium into the blood.
All three of these things will increase. Isn't that what you want? What kind of feedback?
Negative.
Negative. Negative feedback. Because the response is opposite to the stimulus, correct? Questions? I like this color coding business. Go notability. Questions? Nothing? Did I babble about my Monday office hours? Okay, I'm losing it. Okay, so everybody got this? All right, ready to move on to glucose?
Yep.
Yes? Okay, let's go. Before we go into glucose regulation, I want to go over some basic biochem because, again, your chem class, I guarantee you, wouldn't have taught any of this. They usually don't. And actually, to be honest, in my 102, I never taught this either, so I shouldn't blame anyone else. I don't really teach this there. It doesn't matter. It's better to learn it in context, okay, instead of learning it randomly. So, in terms of glucose regulation, this is obviously a big deal, and this is obviously extremely complicated. I'm presenting barely 0.0001% of what's known. Okay, so no way this is going to explain diabetes completely. Okay, so don't expect that. But the bottom line is this. We want our glucose to be less than 90 milligram per deciliter fasting, ideally, and less than 180 postprandial. Postprandial means after food, right? Should be less than 180, okay? And we want that 180 to come, or whatever number, to come down back to 90. So come and be as close to 90 as possible. Okay? The major organ for blood glucose regulation, okay, is the pancreas. We all know this, major organ. But then there are a whole lot of effectors, right? Every living cell in the body needs glucose.
Mm-hmm.
So every cell is an effector, right? If you were to sit in a hot tub, that's why they tell you don't sit in a hot tub for too long, right? You will faint because your blood glucose goes way low. Your skin picks up all the glucose because it needs all that glucose to burn for thermoregulation. Correct?
Yes.
And this is also why sitting in a hot tub is very, very beneficial for diabetics. And when you sit in the hot tub for an hour each day, your blood circulation improves tremendously. Okay? Of course, if you're a male, your sperm count goes to dogs, right? But when you're my age, you know, I'm terminally differentiated. Next step for me is death. What do I care about sperm count? Okay, so diabetes, sitting in hot water really, really helps. Okay? A lot of people think drinking hot water really helps. It doesn't. Because when hot water goes into your body, it becomes the same temperature as blood. People forget that that's what happens, right? I keep reading all these articles that my stupid IT friends send me. Of course, I'm the only biologist in that entire crowd. Everyone's IT. And they're like, oh, you really shouldn't drink hot water. It's too bad. Or drink cold water. It's really bad for you. I'm like, huh? But doesn't that become normal body temperature as soon as it hits your throat? Oh. You need to be sitting in my class, okay? Getting tortured. So don't believe everything you read, okay? Think about it. And you don't have to believe everything I say either. Think about it, okay? It's important. So glucose regulation, what happens? When glucose is high and when glucose is low. We're going to talk about that in a second. But before we do that, I want to talk about a couple of important processes. So when glucose is high, okay, so let's put that in red. So when serum glucose is high, what we want to do is basically convert it to glycogen. It's a polymer. Glycogen is a glucose polymer, okay, and store in liver and store in muscle. All muscles store glycogen, by the way. All muscles will store glycogen. They need energy, okay? You store it in the liver and you store it in the muscles. This process is called glycogenesis. What does genesis mean?
Beginning.
Generating or birth, right? So glycogenesis, glycogen, you don't want to call it glycogen genesis, right? That sounds too awkward. So we call it glycogenesis. Are we clear?
Yes.
Now, when blood glucose is low, okay, when blood glucose is low, what would you want to do here? Break glycogen down, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this process is called glycogenolysis. Okay, the suffix lysis means breakdown. That's why you call it the lysosome. Lysis means breaking down, right? That's why it's called lysosome, right? The body that breaks things down. Okay, so glycogenolysis versus glycogenesis, they look exactly the same if you don't look carefully, and you will get everything wrong. Are we clear?
Yes.
So look at them twice if you need to. These words are very confusing because they sound so similar.
They both describe glycogen.
Yeah, so this is number one. The second effect, actually, if glucose is low, is that an emergency call?
Yes.
Yeah, so the hormones that do this, what pathway? Amplified, non-amplified? Amplified, right? Hello, I don't have sugar. You start shaking, right? You need sugar or you'll go into a coma, right?
Yes.
I told you that, I don't know if I told you this or maybe last semester, but one of my favorite CSI episodes, this woman is dead. Her blood sugar, the pathologist or the person doing the autopsy notices that her blood sugar is only 2 milligram per deciliter. Okay, anything less than 50 is a problem, right? This woman's blood sugar was 2. Okay, and she had been in a coma for 2-3 years, right? And there's no way her blood sugar was going to be 2, correct? Because she was receiving glucose, IV. She's a coma, right? Turns out the husband had injected insulin through her toes, thinking the doctor's never going to notice. Okay, and those of you who were in my anatomy, you know why the toe is so important, right? The tissue between the toes has the most blood absorption there, right? So if you apply something there, it's going to get absorbed immediately. That's why the big toe is called what? What is the anatomical term for the big toe? Not hallucis. Hallucis is a muscle. Hallux, right? Hallux. That's where the word hallucination comes from. Because the Greeks used to rub mushroom extracts on their toes and then philosophize. Make sense? Maybe I shouldn't tell you this. But if you rub alcohol there, nobody under 18, right? Or 21? No one recording. Anyway, I'm teaching so many things. It doesn't matter. If you go do something stupid, it's on you. But if you rub alcohol between your toes, between the big toe particularly and the next one, alcohol will absorb really, really fast. Okay, into your bloodstream, get you high, but you'll still pass your breathalyzer test. Way to get high without getting caught. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but in a nicer way, I guess. The Greeks used to, and not only the Greeks, other cultures have done this too. Japanese, I think, did this as well. They would deliver most of their medications through that space. Okay, so this husband, who himself is a doctor, he gave the injection through that tissue because he knew that tissue will get repaired immediately because you have so much blood flow there, right? It'll heal immediately, and so he thought the person won't be able to find out, right? The pathologist won't be able to find out there's a hole there, right? Too bad they did. And they found insulin remnants there, C-peptide there, and the guy gets caught. Am I making sense?
Yes.
You see, isn't this fun? So while you're watching TV, you should be thinking physiology. Okay? You can have fun. This is why I binge watch, right? Anybody? Okay, so the second step is make new glucose. And very interestingly, people have asked me, I thought only plants can do that. No, we can do that. Okay? And the kidneys do that. The kidneys and the liver make brand new glucose for you. Okay? So kidneys and liver can make brand new glucose from fat. They take fat, break it down, And this is one of the reasons diabetics lose so much weight, okay, if they're not treated properly. Because what happens is the cells are all starving because blood glucose cannot enter the cells, so the cells are starving. So what do these cells do? They break all the fat down to make new glucose. And when you break your peripheral fat down, you're going to lose a tremendous amount of weight, right? So sudden weight loss and a lot of thirst is usually a sign that you've become diabetic, okay? This process is called gluconeogenesis. Neo means new. You absolutely need to know these terms. So far, so good? Okay, so on to how this actually functions. Okay, and by the way, just for safety's sake, you all do know that this coming exam covers
Muscle.
only, muscle only, right?
Yes.
And when is your endocrine exam?
Next
Week
the
after.
following
The week
one.
after. So when I put the announcements, I put March 19th by mistake from the Tuesday class, because I just copied the announcement from the Thursday class, right? And then I corrected it, but I don't know how many people saw the corrected announcements, because people don't check announcements, right? So Tuesday, you will take your exams only on Tuesday, are we clear? Thursday, you will only take it on Thursday. I will never change that. Are we clear?
Yes.
Okay, so let's move on to what happens to low glucose, okay, and high glucose. Okay, so if glucose is high, so if blood glucose is high, you just had a big carbohydrate meal. Question is, how do you bring all this back to normal? So if you've had a high glucose meal, this is sensed by beta cells of the islets of Langerhans. You've gone over this, correct? In lab? By beta cells of islets of Langerhans. And how this happens, I'm going to mention because it's important. So, how is it sensed? Well, increased glucose, I'm going to color code this with a different shade of red. Let's make it that color. So increased glucose, okay, will usually mean increased ATP, correct?
Mm-hmm.
What's the point of glucose? To make ATP.
Yes.
And increased ATP usually means increased cyclic AMP, correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Guess where you make cyclic AMP from? From glucose. Good morning?
Yes.
Yeah. So what does cyclic AMP do? Cyclic AMP will close potassium leak channels. Hello. We've seen this before. If you close potassium leak channels, what's bound to happen?
You depolarize.
Exactly. So you will retain potassium inside the cell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which will cause depolarization, which will cause voltage-gated calcium channels to open, so if you open calcium channels, what's calcium going to do?
Bind to phosphates.
Careful. Calcium is high outside, zero inside, right? So if I
Yes.
open calcium channels, what is it going to do? Come in.
So-
Okay, it's gonna come in. And when calcium comes in, you normally do what? I told you we're going to use these things over and over and over.
Pump it out.
When calcium, you're going to pump it out, but what's the immediate effect of calcium coming in usually? In most cells, I told you in general, when calcium comes in, three things, one, two, or all three things can happen. Number one, cytoskeleton will get activated. Number two, if cytoskeleton is activated, what can you do? Exocytosis or endocytosis, but here it's exocytosis, good. right? And third, shape of the cell can change. Cells can move. In the pancreas, do you want your cells to run away?
No.
No. Okay, so what do you do?
Stay.
Does that make sense? Insulin is released. Okay? Isn't that amazing? Look at that mechanism. So yummy. I know, I got issues. Well, we are talking about glucose, so. Now, what does insulin do? Well, obviously, insulin has effects all over the body. Are we clear? Everywhere. Okay? So, insulin typically, okay? So, first thing insulin does is it'll suppress glucagon from alpha cells of the islets. This is a very, very important idea. It happens right there, correct? So this is a paracrine effect. Paracrine effect happens right there. It's in the neighborhood. And we'll see the significance of this in a minute. Okay? Insulin will recruit glucose channels on the plasma membrane of most cells. Insulin will increase glycogenesis, meaning what? What is check your notes. What's glycogenesis? This is the time to learn.
Conversion of glycogen.
Making of glycogen. You will stimulate making of glycogen. Makes sense, right? You have all the cash. What do you want to do? You want to go invest, right? Now, what would you want to do to gluconeogenesis and glycogenolysis?
Reduce them.
Reduce them, right? So you inhibit why do you want to make new glucose? There's so much glucose, right? So gluconeogenesis and glycogenolysis, correct?
Yes.
So you have to actively do that also, right? Another thing that insulin does, okay, is increase adipocyte differentiation. Okay, so just know this. So it causes fat cells to form. Insulin is very lipogenic. When you inject yourself with insulin, it's very difficult to lose weight. Okay, because in fact, you'll be gaining a lot of weight. Insulin makes you gain a lot of weight. Okay, particularly if you're not physically active. If you're physically active, you'll gain even more weight with insulin, but that weight is going to be pure muscle.
Yeah.
Am I making sense? Because
Yes.
you're making protein. A person who's fit, insulin will push glucose into muscle. A person who is unfit, right, it'll push glucose into fat. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Remember, use it or lose it. If you don't use your muscles, it's not going to work for you. Clear?
Yes.
Okay. So are these effects of insulin clear? Is this so when you do all this, what do you do to blood glucose levels?
Increase.
Decrease them, right?
Right.
So all this leads to lowered
Oh, yeah.
serum glucose. Insulin is obviously what mechanism? Amplified, non-amplified? Do you want amplified for taking glucose in? You want to take glucose in for hours?
No.
No.
Amplified or non-amplified for glucose?
Non-amplified.
No. If I'm yelling, you yell. asking you to yell once every 20 minutes. Pick one. I don't care if you're wrong. Non-amplified. You do not want this to be, a continuous thing. You only want to do it when glucose is high. When you come back to normal, you shut everything off.
Mm-hmm.
And insulin is destroyed in 30 seconds. Okay? That's not something you want sticking around. Or you become this 2 milligram per deciliter coma patient from CSI.
Oops.
Nobody wants that. Okay? So everybody clear about this?
Yes.
Okay. So what about when glucose is low? Is glucose being low stressful?
Yeah.
Yeah. That is not something you want, right? Ever. So if you're one of these people that's going to starve yourself, in terms of losing weight, you will lose weight. But you're losing weight because of cortisol, not because of not eating. Am I making sense? So doing stupid things like that will never help. Okay? Saying, I'm just not going to eat. Now, intermittent fasting is different, right? So there, what you're doing, and trust me, I've measured my cortisol, okay? Every month on intermittent fasting, because I don't want this to become a cortisol problem, right? But the reason why intermittent fasting is in that way is your brain gets used to that fasting. Initially, it is stressful for a month, and for diabetics, a little bit longer. But over time, the brain gets used to your food habit, right? It will not expect food at 1 o'clock. Am I making sense?
Mm-hmm.
When you eat between 6 and 6, it's only going to expect food at 6 o'clock. And you get used to it a lot faster than you think. Okay, it only took me 3 or 4 days, okay, to get used to this whole thing. Wasn't bad at all. I was very impressed with how good the system is for the body. So glucose is low. This is a 911 call, okay? So what mechanism would you apply here? Amplified or non-amplified? Big time amplified. Are we clear?
Yes.
Big time. When glucose is low, the first thing that happens is insulin stops getting out. Everybody got this?
Yes.
Okay, so the first step is insulin levels drop. And that makes perfect sense. You already don't have enough glucose. Why do you want insulin around? That's going to lower it even more.
Yes.
Right? The problem already is low, right?
Mm-hmm.
The last thing you want is more insulin around. Do you see this? So the system has beautifully evolved. So if blood sugar is low, then ATP made will be low. If ATP is low, then cyclic AMP will be low. Cyclic AMP is low, potassium channels don't get phosphorylated. Potassium channels remain open.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
Yes.
And the cell will become hyperpolarized. If the cell becomes hyperpolarized, do you have calcium channels opening?
Yes.
No.
Well, sorry.
Calcium channels open due to depolarization, okay? And then insulin is released, right? So you block everything. Does that make sense? So insulin, and notice how slow this process is. Guys, anytime you have many steps, you're going to be slow, correct?
Yes.
Many hoops to jump through. You do not want this process to be sudden. Do you agree?
Yes.
Both this or this. You don't want this to be in a hurry either. You want it to be fairly slow. Otherwise, it's shocking to the system, correct?
Yes.
So everything is slow because you have so many steps. We evolved it that way because that's the best. Okay? So insulin drops. Okay? As soon as insulin drops, glucagon goes up. Because guess what insulin did to glucagon? Suppresses glucagon, correct?
Yes.
If I remove the suppression, what's going to happen? Glucagon will get released. Are we clear?
Yes.
So when glucagon is released, one of the first things it will do is it increases glycogenolysis. Okay? And it increases gluconeogenesis. Okay? And shuts off glycogenesis. Make sense?
Mhm.
The last thing you want to do when you're strapped for cash is deposit whatever you have in your hands in the ATM. That makes no sense. Okay? And remember, this is all second messenger because it's an emergency. Amplified mechanism, all of it. Amplified and second messenger are one and the same. Okay? Everyone see this?
Yes.
And this has to happen rapidly. Rapidly. It has to happen right away. You don't have a choice. So if glucose being low is a 911 call, will your sympathetic system go up as well?
Yeah.
Of course. Of course. All right. So I'm going to now talk about, okay, the hormone-hormone interactions. Okay. And this is an application of what you've learned. Okay. So glucagon synergizes with cortisol. I already showed you this last class. Okay. And with epinephrine. Okay. To increase blood sugar. And this has to happen fast, and it has to happen rapidly, and it has to happen in a sustained way. So both epinephrine and glucagon work by amplified mechanism. Okay, any hormone that comes out of a nerve will be doing amplified mechanism. Very important. Any hormone that comes from a nerve, any neurohormone will act through an amplified mechanism. Okay, so glucagon will synergize with these. And what is really interesting is, so is this synergy making sense? It's an emergency system, right?
Yes.
So it makes sense that you have that. The second kind of synergy, okay, that happens is with insulin. Insulin is very interesting because what insulin does, so insulin synergizes with growth hormone. Obviously this is slow, right? With respect to amino acid uptake. Now amino acids make proteins, right? So growth hormone will promote protein synthesis along with insulin. Are we clear? But what is really interesting is insulin antagonizes growth hormone for glucose uptake. So growth hormone will not allow glucose uptake of insulin, right? But glucose will allow amino acid intake. Are we clear? It's a very interesting switch. Okay? So again, I need you to emphasize these interactions. Remember, these are all hormone-hormone interactions, right? Two hormones can do these things. Two or more hormones, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions on this? The last part of this is diabetes. Okay, so I want to quickly mention very superficially the deal with diabetes. Diabetes was discovered by Aristotle, okay, who was a 600-pound man. He was a physician, he was a doctor, a philosopher. Remember, in those days, Greeks did everything, right? So he was a doctor by profession, but he was also a philosopher. He was also a chemist. He did all kinds of things. But he was a 600-pound man with no limbs. Obviously, if you're going to be 600 pounds and diabetic, bye-bye limbs, right? All gone, right? And the way he used to test people for diabetes, amazing. So, I mean, it makes you wonder what these insurance companies and all the co-pays and all this nonsense, right? He used to have people pee on the ground, right? And he would give them a box of ants. And he would say, go pee, go find a private area, pee, and let the ants down, release the ants. if the ants all came together, right, and stayed in one spot, you've got diabetes, because that's a lot of sugar. And he would use his own pee as his control, right? Because he knew that his pee had a sugar factor in it, right? No question there. So when patients would come to him and give him the symptoms of, I'm really thirsty, I've lost a lot of weight, I have no energy, and I feel yucky, and blah, 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 right? He would say, go pee on the ground, completely free, right? No copay, no insurance, no nothing. Look how bright he was, okay? So he discovered diabetes, right? Named it diabetes. So diabetes literally means constant thirst. Constant thirst, because that's what that means. Doesn't mean constant peeing. Constant thirst is the meaning of the word. Nobody will name something after peeing, right? In those days, everyone's all bougie, right? Who's going to do that? So diabetes, there are two types of diabetes, okay? So the diabetes we're talking about here is diabetes mellitus and the word mellitus means honey. Mellitus means honey or syrupy, okay? So it's to indicate that their breath smelled very fruity, okay? And it does. A lot of severe diabetics, their breath smells like cologne, actually, believe it or not. Okay, one good thing about that disease, right? Your mouth doesn't stink. So diabetes, people with uncontrolled diabetes, they smell like cologne. And what happens, and it's not good, what happens with diabetes mellitus, there are two types of diabetes, okay? We've got the type 1, and people call this the infantile or juvenile diabetes. That's actually wrong. You shouldn't say that. Because most type 2 diabetics become type 1 eventually. Are we clear? Like I'm type 1 now, right? So the definition of type 1 diabetes is you have no insulin. And remember, this can happen in adults too. So I don't want you thinking this is all children. It's really sad when it happens in children. But usually what happens is, this is an autoimmune attack. So autoimmune destruction of beta cells. And unfortunately, the alpha cells don't get destroyed. Only the beta cells get destroyed because a protein on the beta cell surface resembles a viral protein. Again, evidence for evolution. It resembles a viral protein. Now, why would you create something like this? That's not good. So the immune system, when it's cranked up and unhappy, wrongly recognizes that to be a viral protein, thinks it's a virus, and destroys it. People often get type 1 diabetes right after they get chickenpox. Okay? It's usually right after chickenpox or right after shingles. Make sense? When the immune system is hyper. Okay? It wrongly recognizes it and kills these cells. When you kill beta cells, bye-bye insulin. You can't make it anywhere else. Are we clear?
Yes.
So type 1, China, most recently, China has claimed, and the paper looks really valid and really interesting, so I'm very hopeful that they're right. So China has completely reversed type 1 diabetes, okay, in children. This does not work in adults. Okay, like if I were to go to Beijing and get this operation, nothing will happen. Okay, I'll just lose a lot of money. Okay, it won't work in adults, but it has worked in children, okay, who have had this autoimmune disorder, right, where they use stem cells, okay, to regenerate beta cells, beta cell population. Are we clear?
Yes.
Now remember, in a person like me, my problem, yes, now beta cells are gone, but I also have the problem is I can have all the insulin on the planet, my regular cells also don't work. Make sense? That's why I had type 2 to begin with. So giving me that transplant is not going to help. Clear?
Yes.
Because my problem is twofold, not just onefold. So type 2 is what is actually happening is mutated glucose channels, recruitment. And a lot of people think it's the insulin receptor. It's not. Believe me, if the insulin receptor is mutated, you wouldn't be alive. You need that to live, okay? but it is downstream, okay? So the signal transduction of insulin receptors is flawed. It's flawed. So when that's flawed, you will not recruit glucose channels. Are we clear?
Yes.
So type 2 is where most of the time people have normal insulin, okay? But the insulin's not effective. And so the pancreas pumps more and more and more insulin, right? And after a certain point, it burns out. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So what has been shown though is intermittent fasting in some people can bring these insulin levels back to normal. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So very interesting. In India, the meal plan, right? This is how ancient Indians lived. The meal plan was you ate based on the fullness of the moon. If the moon was full, you ate a full meal, right? Everything, okay? Every bit of salt in the ocean was on your plate, okay? And butter and milk and sweet and everything you can. When the moon starts waning out, you cut that proportion of food, right? And by the time the moon was gone, right, that day you eat nothing. Yes? They have, the same Chinese researchers took this and they tried it in rats. Okay? And it was able to reverse even the type 2 diabetes induced by streptozotocin, it's a drug, right? Completely reversed it. Okay, of course it took a year, right? It took a year to happen, but people have shown that when you eat in this kind of a pattern, where you're not doing extremes, you know what I'm saying? You don't eat a huge meal and the next day you starve, right? That's not what you do, right? What you should do is gradually decrease your meals and then increase it again and then decrease it again. Think about it. Everything in our body is cyclic. Why shouldn't this be? Right? It really rejuvenated the liver, okay? It rejuvenated the pancreas, big time. They were able to do that. Of course, it hasn't been shown in humans. It hasn't been tested yet in humans. But ancient Indians have been doing it for centuries, right? We know it works, right? But people always want scientific publication to believe things, right? Grandma stories like mine don't count, okay? But anyway, that's an interesting little tidbit. So type 2 is where insulin is normal or even high, but the cells are insulin resistant. Okay, insulin resistance. Now think about it, folks. Type 1 people, and in some ways type 2, and remember, type 2 can progress to type 1 because the pancreas burns out. If that happens, don't forget that low insulin means what, glucagon? Low insulin means very high glucagon. That's double whammy, right? Already your blood sugar is high. Now glucagon is going to drive you crazy. Now do you see why your blood sugar is super high and why those insulin injections are so important? Mainly to suppress that glucagon. Are we clear? So the insulin, remember the insulin, where is it? Right here. This number 1 effect is extremely, extremely important. Okay? In diabetics, that's a big problem. Okay? Now, a student once asked me this brilliant question. Okay? She said, well, if you're insulin resistant, aren't your alpha cells also insulin resistant? I mean, you're insulin resistant throughout the body, right? Mm-hmm. And I didn't know the answer. I said, I actually don't know. I should go look it up because I obviously don't think so because blood sugar spikes, right? So it makes sense that glucagon would be high. So when I went and looked, it was a completely different mechanism. Insulin uses a cyclic AMP mechanism to suppress glucagon. It's not the same mechanism you use to take up glucose. Makes sense, the effect is different. Mm-hmm. Hello, good morning?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a different mechanism. So this is still correct. Insulin does suppress, and it suppresses it very quickly. But that was a brilliant question, right? I should put that on next semester's exam. It's gonna be fun. Any questions on any of this? Anything?
So when someone has type 2 and they also develop type 1, do they also develop the autoimmune?
Good question, no.
Okay.
What actually happens from type 2 to type 1 is not autoimmunity. Pancreas burns out. Because you're pumping more and more and more and more insulin, cells die, right? They can't handle that much insulin uptake. And the glucose becomes toxic to these cells. It's way too much glucose. Cells, remember, they undergo graded depolarization, right? The leak channels are almost always shut. So the cells die of electrocution due to potassium toxicity. Make sense? So there are many mechanisms described there. So no, that's not autoimmunity. It has nothing to do with the immune system. Okay, so maybe I should erase this and say becomes type 1 like due to destruction of beta cells. Okay, and I should say not autoimmune. Everybody got this? So the endocrine system, when you study this, majority of the questions are going to be disease-based. So anytime you see a disease, make sure you know it. Okay? Make sure you know it. Okay? So I'll ask questions like, for example, a person, when their blood sugar is too low, they're unable to raise their blood sugar. Which hormone is faulty? If you cannot raise blood sugar, look, I will not say, what does glucagon do? What does prolactin do? What does FSH do? Right? Go to Chabot if you want to take that kind of class, or Merit. If you want to learn something in this class, you're going to have to think. So I'm going to ask you questions like, if a fool cannot raise his blood sugar, what is his problem? Glucagon is not there. Yes?
Yes.
A really intelligent answer would be excess insulin, right? Because you're suppressing glucagon a lot.
Yes.
Right? That would be a brilliant answer, right? So hyperinsulinemia, that's a state, okay? The body will tolerate certain high level of insulin, okay? Anyway, but something like that, right? Another question. The liver is unable to break down glycogen. What's wrong? Or glycogen breakdown is minimum when sugar is low. Also, problem with glucagon. It's also possible that your epinephrine is not working properly in the liver. Correct? Because remember, they work together. Yes? That synergism is not there. Everybody see this?
Yes.
Now do you see how I'll ask questions? I hope so. Because that's how I wrote the test. Okay? And that's 40 out of the 50 points. So please focus on disease states, yes?
Yes.
I will try and write a practice test for, at least for the endocrine. The muscle one's really easy. It's all tables. It's 40 points of tables and 10 points of multiple choice, which is 5 multiple choice questions. Okay? If you don't get 100 on this, I mean, I will be very unhappy. Okay, no pressure. So, but come on, it's just seriously regurgitation and vomit. Okay, is all there is. So you should get at least 40 out of the 50. Okay. And there's extra credit. I think I built extra credit into both exams, a total of 16 points for you for extra credit. So yeah, I'm really trying to get everyone to pass. Any other specific questions? Any muscle questions? Look at the muscle review sheet and see if you have any questions for me. You can also ask me those tonight during office hours. Other than Merit Mama, nobody shows up to office hours. Bad class. And John. John's another regular attendee. Yeah, people who don't need my office hours, they show up. It's always the story. Actually, I don't know. 2 years ago, I had a very conscientious class. I had so much office hours that I had to reserve this room to do all that. I'm serious. everyone would show up to my office hours on time. I could not have office hours. And the dean said, I will reserve a lecture hall for you because this is not working. So I had to use 2202 for office hours. We bumped a class from here, actually. We're not happy about that. So I was very surprised. And that class did really well, too. I'm done. Any questions on muscle? Look at the muscle review sheet. Anything there looking funky? Any concepts that's jumping up that you want me to cover or re-explain from muscle? Cardiac muscle is not on the test, okay? There is no cardiac muscle on the test. I know my video covers cardiac muscle. There is no cardiac muscle on this exam. Are we clear? It's skeletal and smooth. What I taught. I wrote the test from my notes. So if you know my notes, if you understand my notes, remember, my questions are not merit-like, right? Where I ask, what is this? Tell me this. Define this. I don't ask those kinds of questions. You do have to think a little bit, okay? So what if this breaks down? What if that breaks down? What if this didn't work? What if that didn't work, right? Or what if this works too much, right? Those are the types of questions I'll be putting in, okay? If you don't understand what a question is asking, you should ask me at the exam. Don't be shy. Raise your hand and if you're asking for the answer, I'll tell you. You're asking me for the answer. I can't answer this, okay? But don't be shy, okay? Ask me if you want to understand the question better. Sometimes it's the words you don't understand, okay? Sometimes my words are like, once I put the word attenuate and people didn't know what that meant, okay? I told you, I write like the bloody Queen of England. So you may not know that kind of language. Ask, okay? Worst I can say is, go away, right?
Yeah.
So that's fine. But 99% of the time, I will explain the word to you, okay? So remember, your grade's important. So don't sit there all shy and go, I don't want to bother him. Yeah?
On the review sheet, you have ATP sources. Just to review, there's creatine phosphate, but I don't think I got anything else from it.
Glycolysis. Glycolysis is a source of ATP. This is bio 102 days. Glycolysis is a source of ATP. Creatine phosphate is a source of ATP. They're both anaerobic. Okay? And Krebs cycle and oxidative phosphorylation, those are aerobic. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
So you have 4 sources of ATP. You make ATP through 4 ways. Got it? So cardiac muscle and smooth muscle. Okay? The only anaerobic they have is creatine. Are we clear? Yeah?
Yes.
Whereas skeletal muscle, the fast glycolytic can use glycolysis also. Am I making sense?
Yes.
So with skeletal muscle, it varies, right? Because you have 3 different types of fibers, depending on the fiber type, okay? So read the question carefully, read the answer choices carefully. You're getting 45 minutes to only answer literally 10 questions, of which 3 are tables, but that's okay. Tricky. Fine print, okay? It's like a contract that says, you will get an A in this class, and the fine print. Remember the fine print? If you study, if you pray hard. My favorite rate, my professor, for another professor, it was interesting, he was showing it to me. Pick a religion and pray. I want one of those. You should give me one of those. Pick a religion and pray.
Aside from like actin and myosin, do we have to know the structures of the sarcomere?
Did I write tropomyosin and troponin?
Yes.
Yes.
So if I spent ATPs, you have to do bulk transport.
Like, no I-band.
Of course you need to know all that. I taught it, and I wrote it. If it's written in my notes, what do?
Study it.
You need to know it. Okay? So I-band, A-band, H-zone, and Z-disc, they're all on the exam. So you need to know them, absolutely. And that is really important to understand the physiology of how muscle contraction works. So we do anatomy, but only anatomy that's relevant to physio. Yes, sir?
Can you tell us what kind of tables will be on the test?
No. What's next? I give you the exam and I take the exam and then I go dance in the street for nickels. Minimus. You can guess what kind of tables there's going to be, right?
Like the one.
Of course you can, because you didn't study yet. Study Tuesday morning. What kind of tables can I ask? Help him. Okay, what tables did I do? Look at my notes. What tables did I do?
Muscle.
Skeletal muscle subtypes, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
And I've given you 3 muscle subtypes excel, correct? Yes? You ignore cardiac, correct?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So don't worry about cardiac. I really should go check that test. Make sure that I didn't put any cardiac on that test, because I did put cardiac for the 103A exam, but I covered it for that, so that's different. The 3 muscle subtypes file, if you haven't opened it, you need to know it. You need to know every word in it except cardiac muscle. Are we clear?
Yeah.
You don't need to know that one. Okay? So I will check your exam and make sure that that's not on there. So that's one table. What other table can I ask? I compared the 3 skeletal muscle fiber types. That's a table, correct?
Yes.
What other tables can I have? Huh? I heard that. Yeah, good. Single unit smooth muscle, multi-unit smooth muscle. That's another table, right? So look through my notes. And remember, understand them, because the answer choices will not be vomit this, vomit that, right? It will be easier than multiple choice, but it will not be as simple as, here's the answer. Here are the points and go party. Okay? That's not how it works. And your discussion is due on the 17th or the 19th. Are we clear? Drug discussion due 17th or the 19th. You guys did a great job. So just follow that. You cannot do it on the exact same drug. Are we clear?
Yeah.
It's a different drug from what you did before. And I will cross-check all of it. Remember, Canvas does this automatically for me. We have that subscription. It will cross-check against all your first, so you cannot give your discussion to your friend saying, ooh, I did Ozempic. You did, I don't know, give me another drug. Lisinopril. Let's swap. That's a 0. And I will report you. And major yelling will happen. Are we clear?
Yes.
Be honest. All right, that's all you can take of me. That's all I can take of anything. So I'm going home. See you at office hours. Come to office hours.